Have you seen this woman? She was recently captured on security cameras in Akila City and appeared lost and confused. Approach with caution as she's been known to violently solve one's problems. Hey, look who I found. It's everyone's favorite granny. I know some of you have been worried, and honestly, Sarah and I were worried too. It's always a precarious situation when the elderly wander off on their own. But don't worry, we've managed to track Granny down to Akila City. Her mind may have been a bit fuzzy lately, but she's sharp as a tack now and ready to star in her very own space western. So sit back and get ready for Granny Freestar Ranger. After a long time out in space, Granny and Sarah are happy to be back on firm ground. Our last adventure concluded with Granny leading a war against the Spacers as she took on the mantle of the Mantis. So naturally, when the Akila City guard cautioned against entry into the city due to an ongoing hostage situation at the Gal Bank, Granny was not even alarmed. She knows she can handle this, and if her negotiation skills fall short, she can always fall back on what she does have, which
are a very particular set of skills.
The kind of skills that make her a nightmare for people up to no good. Granny heads straight to the Marshal and pulls the classic, "Thanks, we'll take it from here" line. She tries to negotiate with the leader of these bums, but he isn't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Sometimes bad things happen to innocent people. That's life.
After a few attempts, she convinces him to let her in to check on the hostages.
There. The door's unlocked.
He was very foolish to let Granny come in armed. Granny cases the joint, determines all the hostages are okay, and they're all confined to the vault. These crooks are total amateurs, and the leader doesn't even keep his eyes on Granny.
Shut up! You're wasting my time and I'm sick of it!
Suddenly, one of them loses his nerve, and he starts counting down until he's going to shoot one of the hostages.
5, 4...
Oops, Granny's used to going on 3. It's an honest mistake, but once you start shooting, you have to win that firefight. She manages to take down all the perps without any hostages getting hurt. After sweeping up the rest, she heads back to the Marshal to tell him the good news.
You got us out of a tough spot. You did it with courage that's not common. As a matter of fact, you might just be Freestar Ranger material.
Oh boy, Granny just got invited to join the Freestar Rangers, and a nice 5,000 credit signing bonus too. Naturally, she needs to get a selfie with her new boss. Now, Sarah should have really said something, but with all those credits weighing down her purse, Granny wants to do a little shopping. Remember what happened the last time? First task is simple enough. Walk across the street to Mass and talk to the Vanguard captain about the lead on another artifact. Granny would love to do it, but she's never been to a big city and needs to pick up a few things. I do, because it's still happening over 30 hours of playtime later. And wouldn't you know it, we have another distraction. Oh my god, Sarah, this will never end. We all know how this works by now. Granny eavesdrops on conversations and then injects herself to help.
Friend, I gotta confess, I'm not much in the mood for conversation.
Now, most people would take the hint and walk away, but not Granny. No. Davis here seems troubled, and Granny practically feeds on people's hardship.
Look, this ain't New Atlantis. It ain't all flowers and chirping birds out there.
Davis is giving off some Danny Glover vibes, as Granny thinks he's feeling a little
Too old for this shit.
But Granny's living proof you're never too old for any shit, and she knows she can help. So it seems Davis here is in charge of protecting Akila City from the dangerous creatures that live outside the walls, and he's been doing things his way for a long time. The problem is a young lady named Kiona thinks she's got a better way to protect the city, with some new tech stuff she's been developing.
This ain't help. This is thinking you know better than the people that have done it for years, decades even. It's just arrogance.
This has Granny in a tough spot. Like most elderly, she's not too keen on youngsters and their so-called technology, but she can't help but try to clear things up between these two. But in all her time helping people, she's learned to listen, so we better get Kiona's side of the story.
Despite assertions to the contrary, I'm not attempting to run anyone out of a job.
He took his job! He took it, girl! Took it!
Or open the city gates to allow Ashta to come pouring in.
After speaking with her, she seems pretty sincere, and Granny's reminded of her young self with that can-do attitude that Kiona seems to have.
I hope that clears things up.
That was quite comprehensive. I'm not sure what to say.
Sarah doesn't seem too convinced, but I'm pretty sure she's just jealous, so we're gonna roll with this anyway.
That is great news.
So Kiona needs a bunch of sensors set up around the Akila City wall to monitor the Ashta activity. So Granny agrees to help Kiona by setting up the sensors around the wall, but then she needs to take a dangerously long trek across town to get back to her. And wouldn't you know, we're intercepted by one of Todd's agents along the way.
A mirror wolf at the Low House could really use someone helping do it.
Oh god, Sarah, don't look at them. Just keep going, just keep going. Aw, damn it. You got me again, Todd. Well, as it turns out, the Low House is a welfare shelter for people going through tough times. Obviously, Granny needs to get there right away and see if there's anything she can do.
Got a moment to hear about the Low House. It mean a lot to me and to others.
Now, growing up, if someone out in town asked my Granny if she had a moment to chat, I knew I was in trouble. Let's just say Granny moments are timeless, and by that I mean they never end. Oh god, Sarah, I hope you brought your Game Boy Color. This is gonna take a while. After meeting Amira, Granny makes a donation and offers to help figure out why an IntelliWheat shipment has been delayed.
If there's anything you can do to speed up the wheat delivery, please do it.
Granny has no idea what IntelliWheat is, but she's damn sure the less fortunate people of Akila City need their Wheaties. After investigating, she finds out that it's quite likely the IntelliWheat is being used to brew beer.
And now all he wants to do is brew beer.
Despite Granny thinking that beer that actually makes you smarter might be the solution to all life's problems, she insists the shipment goes to the Low House. After a bit more digging, Granny finds out the issue.
The farming equipment outside the walls needs to be manually rebooted.
There's some farming equipment outside the wall that needs to be manually rebooted, but there's no guards available to help with the Ashta, so Granny agrees to go and deal with it.
You would do that? If you get it rebooted, I'll get the harvest going ASAP.
Granny wastes no time and jetpacks right over the wall to get that farm equipment up and running. She's not afraid of a few Ashta. They should fear Granny and her pump shotgun. She resets the farm equipment, and her and Sarah make short work of the Ashta. They would have looked a whole lot cooler if Sarah hadn't decided to use a big bug zapper. With that handled, Granny and Sarah rush back to the city to let everyone know the farm is back up and running. Unfortunately, she hears a child yelling, "Stranger, stranger," and of course assumes she's in stranger danger. Granny rushes to little Annie, ready to unload some buckshot into a perv, but in the end Annie's fine and she's just looking for some help with something.
I work for the Freestar Rangers. I'm the first ever Ranger Surveillance Assistant.
Annie and her friends are playing detective, and she thinks she has a lead on the Laredo Caper, a crook who's been stealing firearms from the Laredo Company. The adults don't believe her, so Granny says she'll help. She wouldn't want these kids getting hurt.
You're doing Akila City a big service.
Annie tells us to wait in a specific location until night to see if we can catch the perp red-handed. While we're waiting for nightfall, we get hit with a mega distraction.
Next stop wouldn't be the Charybdis system, would it? We got a report of a distress call out there. We don't have the ships to send someone that far out.
Another one of Todd's cronies tells us about the Charybdis system and some sort of distress signal coming from there. So by now you know what that means, and we're headed off-world again. Well, Sarah, I suppose it was only a matter of time, wasn't it? Granny and Sarah need to make a few grab jumps, but it turns out the ship doesn't have the juice to get where we need to go. While we're out there, we run into a mysterious captain, but we have no idea what she's talking about.
Please, just be careful. Very careful. I hope to see you at a much later date.
This sends Granny on a bit of a stressful tangent. She wants to get out there and help, but first she's going to need a ship upgrade. So we go back to Akila City to see if we can get an upgrade on our grab drive. Sadly, the best one we can get's not good enough, so I guess we'll have to go back to the Laredo Caper quest for now. This is the first time Granny has been unable to help immediately, and to be held back by her ship's grab drive is pretty frustrating. So feeling a little defeated, Granny takes a seat and reflects for about 6 hours, until it's late enough to catch a crook. We head back over to the area where we're supposed to find the Laredo Caper, and let me say, this is probably the worst thief there ever was.
What? Shit.
He isn't even trying to hide, and he gives up right away.
Oh god, this can't be happening. Oh god, no. Security!
So Granny gets a picture of our first arrest. And we're not even in the Rangers yet. This will for sure fast track us. We head back to Annie and find out she's actually the daughter of Emma Wilcox, who is the recruiter for the Rangers.
Thank you for helping my girl and anything else involved.
We get Emma's thanks for keeping her daughter safe, and now it's a shoe-in for the Ranger job when we finally get to applying. But first we have to go back to Amira and let her know the IntelliWheat shipment will resume now that we rebooted the farm.
That is good news.
It's at this point we're now asked to go and talk to the benefactors about their donations.
You are a breath of fresh air. Once you're done with that, come back to me.
So now Granny and Sarah are basically debt collectors, but it's not slimy at all because this is for charity. Our first stop is the mayor, and it turns out he's just been forgetful, and he agrees to make his payment.
What day is it? Oh, shoot! I forgot. I'll send over my usual monthly donation to Amira.
Next, we go to Laredo Arms, and they of course agree to make their payment too.
Laredo Firearms prides itself in helping out all the residents of Akila City.
Of course it looks good for a defense company to have some charity on its ledger. Last is the Trade Authority, but they're still a bunch of asshats and refuse to help.
The Trade Authority has a firm policy of not getting involved in internal matters.
Yeah, the Trade Authority has a firm policy of being complete douchebags. Come on, Sarah, let's get out of here.
Time to go?
We head back to Amira to let her know and realize that this was another case when a Zoom call could have done the trick. Come on, Todd, it's the future. People are way too lazy for fetch quests. Finally, we deliver some wheat to a family in need.
This wheat ensures my family won't go to bed hungry.
And also find out that we saved her husband in the bank. Granny's feeling pretty good right about now, and the horrors of Neon are slowly fading away. Next, we return to Keone and let her know we set up her sensors. She gives us our next task, which is to help her hack into the city network so we can actually run the sensors.
So, this next part, it's a bit delicate.
Goody Two-Shoes Sarah thinks it's a bad idea, but this is for the greater good.
Hacking the system isn't how we should be distracting that guard, but I'll follow your lead.
Now, Granny lacks hacker skills, but she is an expert in persuasion, and she manages to convince the nearby guard to give us some alone time up on the wall.
I guess I believe you. Just don't do anything I'll regret, okay?
With him out of the way, Keone's able to hack the system and get the sensors up and running. And while she does, Granny takes this opportunity for another selfie. Sarah really does look up to Granny, doesn't she? She tells us we need to wait 24 hours before we can see what they've detected, so Granny decides to take a seat and have a little rest. It's okay, Granny, you deserve a little break. Well, this rest looks like more of a nap and took 24 hours. Reminds me of what my grandparents used to say, they're just resting their eyes. And just like that, the days pass, so Granny heads back to Keone to find out if she needs more help.
Remember the sensors you helped me set up around the city? Well, Davis Wilson is pretty angry about it.
But it seems like Davis got wind of her sensors and he's pretty upset, so we're gonna need to smooth things over. We talked to Davis and he's not happy, but it seems like right now he has other problems.
Don't mean to be rude, but I got a lot of things on my plate right now.
The Ashta are not acting like they normally do, and he needs to go outside the wall to check it out. Granny injects herself into this patrol, and on our way, we find someone inside security has been messing with the security robots. Turns out they were trying to destroy Keone's data, but actually ended up stirring up the Ashta and breaking down, leaving the city defenseless.
Check the access logs on the computer in the barracks. Look for whoever signed for this thing last.
We head back to the security office to check the logs, but this woman is hogging the terminal, and we have to get on the table to make a scene until she lets us have our turn. We find out Bailey's the problem, and she's bad at covering up her tracks. She has the best of intentions, but she's messed up. Now, Granny's made mistakes, so she lets her off easy.
I really screwed this up. Oh, lucky Bailey. If it was me, I wouldn't be so lenient.
For once, Sarah seems to think that Granny went too easy on her. We tell Davis and he's disappointed. He's gonna have to deal with this matter internally. After that, Granny needs to wait some more before talking to Keone about the sensors, but she wakes up with a bad case of cross eyes. What is it with this game and googly eyes? Granny shakes off her eye issues and runs over to Keone to see what's next. It seems like things between Keone and Davis are improving, but now Keone's worried he's working himself too hard.
In fact, speaking of Davis, I have to confess, I'm a little worried about him.
She asks us to talk to him, so we head over to Davis to see if he's doing all right. Davis admits he's been doing extra patrols because he found a large set of Ashta tracks and he's worried that there's a big one out there that could be a problem.
I tell you what, if you and Keone are worried, why don't you just come with me then?
Okay, I need to pause here for a minute and admit that Granny and I are pretty confused about something. Is it Keone or Keone? Because Davis just said Keone, but the way it's spelled sure looks like Keone to me. I guess it doesn't really matter, as young people just need to accept that the elderly will call them whatever the hell they want. My grandparents called me by the dog's name for years. Dog and I just looked at each other and shrugged it off. So Granny agrees to join him on a hunt for the big one. And boy oh boy do we find what we're looking for. Woohoo! Sarah, we got ourselves a big one. Granny takes out the Alpha Ash to no problem, and Sarah clearly is confused.
What's the matter with you?
After we get a trophy shot, we head back to Davis.
You hadn't been with me, no way I'd be standing right now.
There's no way we could allow that to happen.
Sarah, why are you wearing the Ashta? We return back to What's-Her-Name and tell her that Davis is now willing to work together with her to protect Akila City. They'll use a combination of her tech and his experience. Looks like Granny has once again brought people together with her overbearing personality.
Anyway, thank you. Again.
And now it's finally time to join the Freestar Rangers. Granny and Sarah head over to the Rock to put in our application. Granny's told she needs to complete a bounty to prove she's worthy.
Tell you what, use the mission terminal and take one of the listed jobs. Your choice.
So we grab a bounty from the bounty board and head towards the ship. But on our way, Granny decides to have a quick look at the ship upgrades again. And wouldn't you know it, there's a fresh new drive right off the assembly line that has the power to get us to that distress signal from earlier. Granny's still pretty guilty about not helping on that one right away, so she throws the drive on her ship like it's a Lego, and we blast off to Sharibidides. Oh god, that's another one I can't pronounce. We follow the signal to a place called the Crucible. It's on a pretty planet, so Granny stops to smell the flowers for a few minutes before heading to the source of the signal. Sometimes you gotta stop and appreciate the little things. As we head in, we're stopped by a robot, Tobias. I guess it was the one sending the signal, but it gives us a pretty nasty job to deliver 150 units of copper.
Outsider will deliver 150 units of copper.
But thankfully, a lady named Ada saves the day and gives us something else to do right away.
Stand down. We have a visitor.
Seems we need to talk to a guy named Franklin, as there seems to be some sort of feud going on in this community.
Franklin would know what to do. He's the oldest among us. You should talk with him.
Oldest, you say? Well, well. Is there a silver stallion around here who might fancy Granny? So we go meet Franklin, and hot damn, he is the legendary Franklin Roosevelt.
You see, I was an American president. Well, not literally, but in a sense I was.
This is strange, as he would be hundreds of years older than Granny. Granny is into older men, but things sour pretty quickly as it's looking like he might be a cult leader. And to top it off, we discover he's actually a clone. Seems like these clones are living out their lives and being replaced by new clones when they die. He tells us to go meet the other societies, and on our way we meet Wyatt Earp. We find out he runs a hotel in town. Next we head over to meet Queen Amanarius. She says she's earned her name, and that's cool because Granny can't pronounce it.
Know that you stand before Queen Amanirinas of the Kush.
She's a bit condescending, but Granny lets it slide. And last but definitely not least, we meet the one and only Genghis Khan. Oh my god, can you imagine if somebody gave Genghis Khan a pistol? We try to show off to him, but we fail. Despite that, he still appreciates Granny as one with the sword. Find out he wants to escape, and he calls us the woman from the stars. He's hoping we can help him get away from here.
And the woman from the stars, come to see me.
He says he sees a fire in Granny, and she's sold. Genghis is her man. We find out that there's a facility on this planet where the clones are believed to come from, and something has gone wrong.
You know of the facility, yes? Go there and make the machines let us leave.
On our way out, Wyatt says he needs to talk, and there's something up with Franklin.
Listen, it's not safe to talk here.
He brings us to his creepy man cave outside the walls, and Granny is puzzled by his choice of decorations. He tells us who he really is. H.H. Holmes, America's first serial killer.
I'm not Wyatt Earp. I wish. God, how I wish I was.
This is unbelievable. Oh, you poor, poor man.
Sarah can't believe it, despite being on top of the creepy cave. He's worried that when we go to the facility, it will uncover his secret, and he can't let the others know. So he decides he has to kill us to keep his secret. Granny tries to reason with him, but he won't listen.
I don't want to do this. Goodbye. For both of us.
He sets off his explosive trap, but Granny takes it like a champ. You think a little fire is going to take down Granny? She puts an end to him, and technically he's a bad guy, so there's no guilt on this one. After that, we head to the facility to look for clues. We find the place has been overrun by aliens. Lucky for Granny, we happen to have picked up a Grendel with incendiary bullets, which is very effective against them. Well, Sarah, it's not as classy as the sword, but it's pretty damn exciting. I believe the kid would say this is lit. Unfortunately, we run out of bullets and have to face the boss maggot with less effective weapons. Turns out we might be a bit weak for this area, and Granny gets knocked out in one hit. But it was all a dream, or maybe a vision, so now we know exactly what lies ahead and we can save our fire bullets. We dump several hundred incendiary rounds into the maggot and finish it off with some lasers. After that, we find some clues and a door we can't unlock. Now we have to return back to the Crucible to tell the clones what we found. We choose to talk to Genghis first, and Sarah's not pleased, but Genghis stole Granny's heart.
I'm not certain what's persuaded you to choose this terrifying solution, but mark my words, it's not going to end well.
We find out there was another ship, the Beagle, that might have a door code, but we need Ada to help us locate it. Now Genghis may be old, but he leverages tech better than most fools in this game and uses the radio to let Ada know we're coming.
I will radio her and tell her to help you. She will find the Beagle for us. She must.
Jesus, this is the first time someone just picks up the phone instead of sending old Granny the messenger. Ada says we need to go to the Bell system, and she says it's not far.
I can send you the coordinates. The Bell Star system is not far.
Which is true, except for Todd has given us a galactic fetch quest. And once we arrive to the Bell system, we discover we need to follow the Beagle's path, which happens to be too far for our current grav drive. But Granny's resourceful and studies up on astrodynamics to push our ship a little further, and that does the trick. What feels like 50 jumps later, we reach the Beagle and board it. The ship's full of turrets and robots, but it's no sweat for Granny, and we make it to the data core. As we return to the Crucible, we discover things aren't going very well.
Outsider, this is Genghis Khan. Know that there are urgent matters on Crucible.
And it seems like that condescending queen wants to start a war.
I am done with all this negotiating.
Well, too bad for her, she doesn't have any idea what Granny's capable of. And let's just say there's a new queen in town. The queen is dead. Long live the queen. Granny's first official business as queen is to free the clones from Crucible. To do that, her and Sarah will need to plow through the rest of the facility. She encounters the clone leader, who sadly looks like her pal Genghis, so she gives him a warrior's death by sword out of respect. And now, since Genghis has shown his superior IT skills unlike most of Todd's NPCs, Granny makes him a super admin. And with that, we return to Genghis to let them know they're free.
Soon the renegades will leave this planet, but we will always burn a candle to you, outsider.
And Granny also gets a new disciple, Amelia Earnhardt.
Will you let me join you? Golly, thanks. You have no idea what this means to me. I swear you won't regret it.
Well, with another job done, it's time to collect 150 copper for Tobias. Oh god, Sarah, this is going to suck. Now, if only StarCraft were more like Minecraft, where copper is easy to collect. But no, in this game, only 1 copper is obtained per ore. at least without your skills upgraded. So we're gonna need to find a vendor to buy some, or this will drive Granny mad. We find a place close by and we totally regret going. Granny stumbles into a retreat for convicts and their leader Sloan tells us there's someone missing.
I'm sorry, love, but the Eleos Retreat isn't taking new residents right now. We've had some issues. A missing person chief among them.
Granny sees this as a good opportunity to rehabilitate some people, so of course she's gonna help. Sloan tells us to speak with Greg, who is tracking the missing person. During his investigation, he was attacked from behind near a cave, and now is in recovery.
There was a cave system. I scanned nearby, but I got attacked before I could look any further. Next place I was planning to visit once I was on my feet again.
Granny's feeling bad for Greg, so she gets Sarah to take a picture of them together. It's not every day you get a picture with the Queen. After that, we head to the cave to look for clues. We find the missing person Kilman hiding deep in the cave. He's pretty shook up, which is understandable given he's in a cave full of hostile creatures, but he calms down once he realizes Granny's here to save him.
Something for me?
You do know the way back, right?
We escort him back and find out that he'd been kidnapped.
Mother of God, kid. What happened?
I was walking out, and someone threw a bag over my head. They took me... I don't know. It smelled like the inside of the first aid kit.
Well, we certainly can't leave now, and we need to find the kidnap. Luckily, Sloane's pretty sharp, and she knows that there's a research outpost nearby that would smell like meds. So we're headed there next.
He did, didn't he? Industrial antiseptic would be my guess. I know that smell.
As we clear the research center, it's clear someone's operating out of this place, as it's full of booby traps, robots, and turrets. Oh, I see how it's gonna be. Okay, well, Granny's got some tricks up her sleeve, too. During her exploits, Granny picked up some cryo mines that we're gonna give a try. Now all we need to do is use Sarah as bait to lure the robots in. All right, Sarah, as soon as they get here, jump out of the way.
All right, everyone, chill.
Ooh, Sarah, that looks like it hurt. I'd say put some ice on it, but, well, we make it through and find some evidence on a slate. Looks like a couple of bounty hunters are responsible. After we update Sloan, we head back to the research center to confront the bounty hunters when they return. I don't think they expected to come home to Granny.
And just who the holy hell are you?
But we do manage to talk them down, and that's another job done.
Fine. We'll leave the retreat alone.
Aw, look, Sarah, the big tough guy can't even look us in the eyes now. Sloan tells us her boss, Nevin, wants to thank us personally, so we head up to his office. Of course, he really just wants some more help from Granny and tells us we need to go talk to their benefactor to keep the bounty hunters off their backs.
Head to Akila City in the Cheyenne system. Check in with Justin Sneed, her security chief. And I would ask you to try and be polite. She's the only reason we're here.
I like your accent, Nevin. I think you should become Queen Granny's butler. We head to Akila City and find out the CEO of Laredo is actually the person behind the retreat. Man, Laredo is nailing their public image. She'll pull some strings to keep the retreat safe, and all that's left is go back and let Sloan know.
It'll take time to get the right people in place for this kind of work, but I'll make sure it's addressed.
When we arrive, she's sleeping, so Granny figures she might as well have a nap too. And after that, we wake her up and tell her the good news. After that distraction, we need to get back to the copper mining. Granny heads back to her pal at the Mining League on Neon, because if anyone has copper, it'll be him.
Certainly, my friend.
It's at this point Granny has a bout of dementia and buys copper from him 6 days in a row. Sarah doesn't have the heart to break it to the old queen, so she just smiles and nods. Once we have enough copper, we return to the robot, and thank God that's over.
Social interaction terminated.
And now we can finally do the bounty contract to get into the Rangers. We also realize we have a new weapon, the Mag Shot, which is a pretty serious piece of equipment and helps us finish that contract in no time. After that, we head back to the Rock and officially join the Rangers.
Welcome aboard, Deputy.
We are the newest Freestar Ranger deputy. Of course, we get a picture of our first day, but Sarah's getting a bit impatient. I guess that's fair. It's probably been months since we started the Constellation questline.
You've made a wise choice, but I trust that your duties as a ranger won't interfere with your service to Constellation.
Only Rangers are allowed to the enlistment ceremony, so Sarah had to tell me this through a wall. Oh boy, it's time for our first Ranger assignment. We accompany Emma to go help a farmer in trouble out on the frontier.
Oh, there's one other thing. They said they were the first. First of what, I'm not sure. But there must be more of them coming.
It seems like some outlaws calling themselves the first are trying to push the poor farmer off her land with some intimidation tactics. Well, Granny can be pretty intimidating herself, so we track these outlaws through a cavern filled with giant bugs. This mission's probably easier in daylight, but Granny can still see footprints in the dark. Anyways, the darkness made for a spooky experience. Granny leads them through the canyon and we find the outlaw camp. We speak to their leader and find out they are former First Cavalry working as hired muscle.
So, got any last words I should try to remember?
They decide to fight, so they are introduced to Granny's mag shot. Man, this gun's awesome if you can actually hit something with it. Once they're clear, we search the ship. We find a slate and discover that the ship was stolen from Hope Tech. Next, we report back to the Rock and find the boss used to be in the First Cavalry back in the Colony War.
The First Cavalry. I was in that unit for a while, but it was disbanded decades ago, after the Battle of Nera.
He tells us to head to Hopetown and figure out why the ship was stolen. But on our way, we find a fellow ranger in distress. It seems Nia's ship is falling out of orbit, but for some reason the customs people don't care. Bunch of pinhead functionaries. She got knocked out by some outlaws, so we help her out.
Thanks. I owe you one.
We're happy to help.
Afterwards, the outlaws take a run at Granny, but we put the game on very easy and wipe the floor with them. That's the Granny cheat code. Finally, we jump to Hopetown and we go with Nia to meet Ron Hope.
If word gets out about the stolen ship, my investors will lose trust, and my workers will pay the price.
Well, heavy is the head that wears the crown.
He's such a dick, Sarah has to give him a little jab. Regardless, we're sent to Neon to follow up on the stolen ship. We meet another ranger, Jalen, who says he'll help us, but given how corrupt Neon is, we don't expect a lot of support from the locals. He introduces us to Billy, and of course he ain't talking. Granny lets him know the Queen doesn't appreciate people wasting her time, and Sarah gets a little concerned.
Whoa, relax. No need to get rough here. Truth is, I'm scared enough as it is.
Hey, take it easy. This isn't the way to get what we want.
But it turns out Billy's just scared. His brother was killed for owing money, and now the loan shark's after next of kin. He'll help us if we can get the syndicate off his back, so we need to go visit their leader in a warehouse. We go meet their leader, Emmett, and find out he's a real piece of work. Doesn't seem to realize what Neon makes Granny do.
Maybe it's time I show you how we resolve disagreements here in Neon.
She tries to talk him down, but let's be honest, Granny knows exactly how things are dealt with in Neon. Oh god, Sarah, not this again. After that, we go back to Billy and get the details.
Did you talk to Goodman? The woman you're looking for is named Grace Early.
I know her. When she isn't out on a job, she's a regular at Madame Sauvage's.
Seems we need to talk to Grace, and just so happens that she's at our old hangout, Madame Sauvage. Oh, Sarah, I missed this music. We confront Grace and let her know that she's gotten involved in something much bigger than just stealing a ship.
Look, I wouldn't have got involved if I thought anyone would be hurt. I've got no love for violence.
After a bit of prodding, we get her to spill the beans, and she says Maya Cruz was the one who recruited her. She gives us an encrypted slate linked to a guy named Marco who took over when Maya Cruz went for medical treatment. We head back to the Rock and give the slate to the IT guy who gets way too excited.
Oh, come to daddy, my sweet little mystery slate.
After that, we speak to Marshall, and he knew Maya Cruz from his days in the First Cavalry. He also knows someone with serious medical issues would be in the orbiting clinic.
Most likely place would be the clinic. It's in Freestar Collective space and provides the best medical services credits can buy.
And it just so happens we've been to that clinic before, so we know where to go. At the clinic, we meet the local ranger Ben, who happens to be the oldest member of the Rangers.
Well, I guess that's the long and short of it. You're the newest member of the Rangers, and I'm the oldest.
Of course, this is only because Granny lied about her age on her enlistment forms. He gives us some of that old man wisdom before introducing us to Ari Miller, the IT guy on the station.
Well, every Ranger knows it's important to trust your instincts.
Why do I feel like this isn't the first time an old man named Ben told me to trust my instincts?
Hello there.
He mentions the computers have been on the fritz lately, which is a bit suspicious, and he searches the records for Maya Cruz, but of course she'd be smart enough not to use her real name. The best we can do is narrow it down to a couple of female patients to check with. First we meet Jane, and she doesn't seem like our perp. Next we meet Candace, and she's probably going to be another one of Granny's besties, but she's definitely not our perp.
Why, hello. Are you here to keep me company? I do hope so.
We go back to Ari and find there was only one other woman on the station, and she was rushed into urgent surgery. She's in the VIP wing, but we can't get in there without permission from Titus Cassidy. He doesn't want to let us in, so Granny needs to remind him to respect his elders, and eventually he relents.
Let's just take a moment and calm down, shall we?
We head in to find the defenses have been turned against the staff, and the room's also filled with booby-trap mines. Looks like the suspect hacked the system and escaped. After disabling the turrets and searching the place for evidence, Granny finds a slate from a major hull instructing Maya to head to an abandoned asteroid mine in the Sharkov system. So Granny and Sarah jump into the Sharkov system and end up near a planet Boner. I mean Bonner, sorry about that. It's a very hard word to pronounce. Maya has been busy preparing this facility with defenses, so we're gonna have our work cut out for us.
I had to warn you. I've had more than enough time to prepare for this.
And of course Sarah's not too bright and walks into some mines. Seriously, Sarah, again? Also, did you remember to submit your Boner survey data? Eventually we make it to Maya, and our fancy mag shot is far too much for her. Once she submits, we have a chat and find out she's on borrowed time anyways, so we decide to let her live.
I've got maybe a few weeks to live, and I ain't spending them behind bars.
We get another encrypted slate for the IT guy, and he's sure to be as excited as this planet.
Well, what do we have here?
Next, we follow up on another lead for a guy named Marco, which ends up leading us to the Red Mile. Granny speaks to the local ranger who's working an investigation into a smuggling ring, and we get invited into a conversation where we might get some information about Marco.
Information about the smuggling ring. If you play your cards right and don't do anything stupid, she might be able to help you find Marco.
Now, Granny's old knees are tired, so she has a hard time getting into the seat, but she gets there eventually. We try to get details on Marco, but it looks like the only way we're going to get something is to give something in return.
It's been too long since we've had proper entertainment. If you're willing, I'll give you Marco.
And boy oh boy are the people of the Red Mile in for a treat, because Queen Granny is going to run the Red Mile. Even if Starfield itself is so excited that it glitches out and we have to reload the save. Once we're back up and running, we head out into the mile. Now these enemies are tough, and Granny doesn't have a lot of ammunition or patience to take them all out. So instead, she uses her expert skills to run through all the enemies and get the job done. We're just that good. After that, we get the info on Marco, but May has to open her mouth about running the Red Mile again. And of course, Granny can't say no. So just like that, here comes round 2.
For what it's worth, I hope you succeed.
Since we've already proved ourselves and passed the initial drug test, we sneak a little amp, and boy oh boy, can Granny run like the Flash. She gets it done in record time. We get a new shotgun as a reward, and finally we can head back to work. On our way out, we run into an old friend, Genghis Khan, and he's got himself a ship. But they're still singing Granny's praises.
I think of you often. My crew and I have a toast in your honor after every victory.
Now Granny and Sarah are off to Kodos to find Marco, and it turns out he's quite the fancy pants and has himself a luxury ship called the Fortuna. We go to his office and he throws us some insults, but Sarah's got our back.
I'm a little disappointed that the marshal sent the deputy instead of a full-fledged ranger.
I'm willing to bet this deputy can handle whatever you intend to throw in our path.
He tries to bribe us, but we're rangers now and we have a code. After that, things get a bit crazy, and as Granny's coming down from the amp she took at the Red Mile, she forgot it can cause fainting spells. Anyway, Marco must have had his thugs throw us out, but we march right back in there, and this time she's ready. Well, her aim is pretty off, but the mag shot's just so damn good it doesn't matter. We take down Marco and turn the ship's turrets against the rest of his crew. At this point it occurred to me that this must be what my grandparents always meant when they said work smarter, not harder. We take a few credits as evidence, Granny's honor, and we deal with a few stragglers before heading back to the ship. Now it's back to the Rock to give another slate to the IT man and let Marshall know what we found.
Oh, come to Daddy, you sweet little piece of technology.
Jeez, Sarah, let's not use a blacklight near his desk.
I've done it! I've cracked the encryption on the slates.
And with that last slate, the IT man's done, and we know where Major Hall's hiding out, an old Freestar mech factory from the war.
The facility was on Arcturus 2. It could be a dead end, but if it's not, then you'd better be ready for a fight.
It's time to finish this thing. Granny and Sarah fight their way to Hall and confront him.
I can't believe it. You just took on some of the best mercenaries in the Freestar Collective and cut right through them.
He explains their fight, and Granny has to admit she's starting to see their way of thinking and take pity on them.
I refused to work for a shadow client, so we agreed to set up a meeting. Imagine my surprise when Ron Hope showed up.
He tells us that Ron Hope is behind all this, and despite doing the dirty work, there's definitely some honor in these guys. That is until he launches some point-blank grenades at an old lady. When Granny collects herself, the gloves are off, and she gives him a fiery end. Well, there's only one thing left to do. We need to deal with that traitor Ron Hope. This bastard thinks his position in the council will protect him, but Granny's not afraid to get her hands dirty taking out the Freestar Collective trash.
It's nothing personal. It's just good business. I don't expect you to understand.
We go confront him at Hope Tech, and we're not buying any of his excuses. He may be good to his employees, but the law's the law, and Ron isn't going to get away with it this time.
Such a shame to see a promising career cut so tragically short.
He makes a pathetic attempt to take on Granny, but she is way out of his league, even if she can't aim for shit. Remember those googly eyes? She still has trouble seeing straight sometimes. Now obviously Granny would have liked to bring him in alive, but you all saw that he pulled the gun first. Remember, keep your story straight. Finally, we return to the Marshal and let him know that Ron was behind it all.
This is going to send shockwaves throughout the Freestar Collective.
It was a bit messy, but nobody can argue that Granny got the job done, and we get promoted to full ranger.
By the authority granted to me by the Council of Governors, I hereby promote you to the rank of ranger.
I have to admit that I am bloody proud of you. Well done.
Sarah is so proud, and we even get a new ship out of it. Now after all that good work, we remember we still have a darker side and need to plant some damning files at the Laredo HQ for Ryujin. Nothing to see here? Official ranger business? Wow, Sarah, literally 2 minutes after her promotion, she's already exploiting her power. And despite probably being about a month late, we still get a next assignment.
Your next assignment is to find the security chief and use some creative thinking to obtain their security keycard.
It's simple enough. Go to Gagarin and get a security keycard.
But while we're there, we get the call to serve in the Vanguard. But it looks like that's a story for next time.